So we're looking at this, the Lord of Psalm 23 is the book there. And the three sections of the psalm are: the Lord is my shepherd throughout life, the Lord is my guide throughout death, and the Lord is my host throughout eternity. He has those three roles. He's a shepherd, he's a guide, and he's a host. And yesterday, just if I didn't have enough to do, I thought I'd get ChatGPT to come up with images for each one. The first one's looked a bit like the Jehovah's Witnesses version of Jesus. So I said, please make him look like the guy from The Chosen. So they did, and there he is. Turn my points into those images. I don't know why I cut off the left-hand edge. I couldn't get it not to do that. The Lord is my shepherd throughout life. He's my guide throughout death. Goes ahead. And he's my host throughout eternity. He spreads a table before each one of us who loves him. So let's just think about those opening words then about the Lord being our shepherd. They're well known. The Lord is my shepherd. One of the things that Dave Gibson says in the book, and I think it's true, is we jump on that word shepherd. We're drawn to it straight away. And he says we miss the first two words that are very important. The Lord is my shepherd. Because knowing who he is changes what it means to be shepherded by him. You probably know this. When you see those letters in capitals in your Bible, it's the proper name of God, Yahweh. And you might remember Moses at the burning bush talking to God and saying to him, suppose I go to the Israelites and say to them, the God of your fathers has sent me to you, and they ask me, what is his name? Then what shall I tell them? And God replied to Moses and said, I am who I am. This is what you are to say to the Israelites. I am has sent me to you. There are different ways of translating that name. When we did this with the young people's group, I talked to them about God introducing himself as I am who I am, or being the I am. And I remember Lacey asked them, why do you think he called himself that? Why do you think he told Moses his name? And Lacey's first reaction, it was brilliant, was because he wants to be known. Someone who doesn't want to be known will not tell you their name. He's a God who wants to be known. And yet the flip side is his name is hard to translate. And it's a bit confusing. And we can't fully sum up what does it mean. I am who I am. Or I will be who I will be. That's equally valid. Or when I was taught theology, my tutor liked to translate it like this. All that I am, I will be to you. And I always like that. All that I am, I will be to you. And in this psalm, it's the Lord who is our shepherd. And this same Lord, Moses wants to press further into his character. Do you remember this in the incident with the golden calf? And it looks like the whole of the Israelites might be wiped out. Moses intercedes for them, and he just says, I want to know you more. I want you to reveal who you are to me that I might really know you. And so in Exodus 34, the Lord then comes down in a cloud and stood there with Moses and proclaimed his name, the Lord. He unpacks it for him. He passed in front of Moses proclaiming, the Lord, the compassionate and gracious God, slow to anger, abounding in love and faithfulness. I've always been very struck that when the Lord introduces himself, he begins with the word compassionate. I'm not sure it's where I would start if I was the Lord. I might start with my power, my creative abilities, my wisdom. The fact that I know everything might be high on my list, that I hold all power, that I'm everywhere. Isn't it sad when Christians aren't known for being compassionate? When we're known for being harsh or judgmental? That's sad. Because when the Lord introduced himself, he said, I am the compassionate or merciful, gracious God. And Isaiah draws these two thoughts together in Isaiah chapter 40, and one of my favorite kind of descriptions of the Lord in the whole Bible. It says, see, the sovereign Lord comes with power and he rules with a mighty arm. He is mighty. There's no one more mighty in the universe. His reward is with him and his recompense accompanies him. And then he flips it. And he says, and he tends his flock like a shepherd. He gathers the lambs in his arms and carries them close to his heart. He gently leads those that have young. The mightiest being in the universe is God. The holiest being in the universe is God. And yet, that holy God comes down and is tender even towards the smallest and frailest of children. A wonderful description. And so when we read, the Lord is my shepherd, we remember both his might. He's a strong shepherd. And if we're going through really tough times, we need his strength as much as we need his compassion. We need to know there's someone who's in control, someone who's not going to let us down, someone who's not going to let us go, someone who holds everything in his hands, but also is tender and loving and kind. And we know what David didn't know, that 1,000 years after he wrote this psalm, Jesus Christ would come. And in Mark's gospel, it makes it very clear that he is this good shepherd. So just before he feeds the 5,000, it says this: the apostles gathered round Jesus and reported to him all they had done and taught. Then because so many people were coming and going, they did not even have a chance to eat. He said to them, come with me by yourselves to a quiet place, a still place, and get some rest. But when they get there, it seems like everything's gone wrong. So they went away by themselves in a boat to a solitary place. But many who saw them leaving recognized them and ran on foot from the towns and got there ahead of them. When Jesus landed and saw a large crowd, what did he do? He had compassion, because he's God in human form. He had compassion on them because they were like, what, sheep without a shepherd? So he began to teach them many things. And not only did he teach them, but he fed them. And the details here show that Mark has in mind. Psalm 23 says, then Jesus told them to make all the people, told the disciples to make all the people sit down where? On the green grass. The green grass. And when they ate, they were satisfied. They had everything they needed. And I think Psalm 23, when it says, the Lord is my shepherd, I lack nothing, the big point it's making is if we have this Lord who is almighty and compassionate, we always have everything we need. We don't always feel like that, but that's the reality. And he feeds us, and he cares for us. And he wants to bring us to a quiet place, a place of rest. Beside those quiet waters is actually a place of rest. That even when life is hard and difficult, as the psalm goes on to say, we can still know peace, even in the most challenging of circumstances, because we lack nothing. We lack nothing because we have him. Jesus said to us all that we could come to him when we're weary and burdened. He would give us rest, that we can take his yoke upon us and learn from him, because he is gentle and humble in heart, and in doing so we'll find rest for our souls. We often go wrong because we try to carry the burdens without including him. We try to carry more than we can. What he wants us to do is to come to him. If you're anything like me, you get frantic, you rush around, you get stressed, and eventually you think, what am I doing? I need to actually come before the Lord and bring this thing to him that is beyond me, but it's not beyond him. And then remember that his yoke is easy and his burden is light. The Lord is my shepherd, therefore I lack nothing. He makes people like you and me lie down in a place of rest. And he does it so he might be glorified in our lives. We live in a world that is frantic. We live in a world that is anxious. We live in a world that is exhausting itself trying to find answers. And we have Christ, the Good Shepherd. And so we have everything that we need. So we've thought so far about the Lord being our shepherd throughout life, but the Lord is also our guide, or my guide, throughout death. And verse 4 picks up on that. It says, even though I walk through the darkest valley, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. Sometimes it's translated, you've got it in the bottom of your Bibles there, the valley of the shadow of death. And I guess for many of us, that is our greatest fear, isn't it? The death of those that we love dearly, maybe even our own death, is something that causes us to be afraid. I was once a pastor who was driving down the motorway, and the way the sun was, a big lorry drove down the outside lane outside them, and the shadow of the lorry came over the car. And the pastor, quick as a flash, said to his children in the back, "How is everyone? Is anyone hurt?" And the children laughed. They said, "No, Daddy, stop being silly." And they said, "What would have happened if the truck had hit us?" And then the children were quieter, because if the truck had hit them, they would have been in big trouble, wouldn't they? But it's just a shadow. And the pastor said, that's all that's going to happen when Mummy and Daddy die. When you die, if you trust in Jesus, just the shadow that will fall on you, because the reality fell on Jesus. And so as we go through the dark valleys, and we do, there's comfort here for us. There's comfort in these words that are written here. We will fear no evil. Why is it that as Christians we can say that? We're not Buddhists. We don't believe that we have to pretend that bad isn't bad and that evil isn't evil. I think one of the things that's drawn people into our church of late has been that we face the evil here, the evil without and the evil within. We don't try and pretend it isn't evil or dark or terrible. There used to be a thing, didn't there? If you look sad as a Christian, you'd let the side down. And that can't be right. We live in a world that's messed up and broken, and there are times where the evil around us affects us deeply, and we feel it. And Jesus himself was called a man of sorrows. So it can't be wrong to be sad at times by these things, but we don't have to be afraid. And the psalm gives us three wonderful reasons. It says here, even though I walk through the valley. That's an encouragement, isn't it? It's not our final destination. We won't stay in the valley forever. He's going to bring us through. There may be seasons where we go deep into the valley. For some of us, that might be because of our mental health, or through a bereavement, or our own health. And it's dark and it's difficult. But it's never our destination. He led us in there. He led us into the valley because he's Lord of the valley as much as he's Lord of the top of the mountain. We forget that because we like the mountain, don't we? We like being free of problems and life sweet. But he led you into the valley, and he will lead you through and out the other side. Years ago, I heard Brian Edwards, who I know some of you know, talking about the death of his wife. And he said everything changed for him when he stopped looking for the light at the end of the tunnel and start looking for the light in the tunnel. You see how different that is? The world says try and get out. And Brian said it all changed for him when he started looking for the light in the tunnel. And the Lord led him through. I love the fact that we walk in the valley of the shadow of death. We walk in the darkest valley. You can only do that if you're not afraid. The person who's afraid is trying to clamber out drastically, run through anything to get out as quickly as possible. But the wise Christian knows this: there are lessons the Lord can only teach you in the valley. When you're struck by that in Rachel's testimony this morning, Nick's too, really, some deep valleys. And that Rachel and Nick can reflect the Lord has brought them through. It's a wonderful testimony. Why can we do it? Because he's with us. If we were on our own in those valleys, we would have every reason to be afraid. Is it any wonder the world's frantic when they get that diagnosis, when their mental health's collapsing, when those they love, everything's spiraling out of control? Why wouldn't they be frantic? Because they, in a sense, are still on their own. But we know the Good Shepherd, and he's made promises to us. And we worship a promise-keeping God who will never break his word. He said, I am with you, and I'll be with you always to the very end of the age. And he is never going to break his word. And then you get those two instruments that he's carrying. I will not fear, for you're with me. For your rod and your staff, they comfort me. Isaiah, do you remember, said he's strong. He's the sovereign Lord. Do you know what? His rod is for fighting off wild animals that might otherwise attack you. He's there armed to the teeth to protect you. If a lion or a bear or anything else came after you, he's got his rod in his hand. But his staff is different. His staff is there to guide and even to give you a whack if you go off the path and start straying. And don't we need that too? So he fights off the enemies without, like the bear and the lion, and he fights off the enemy within Neil Todman and within you. Because he's not going to let us be overwhelmed by any form of evil, without or within. He fights for us. I love Jesus Christ. You'll be pleased to hear. This Easter means a lot, doesn't it? Because we know he's been through the darkest valley. He's experienced the worst this world can throw at a human being. From the day he was born, he was taunted. People didn't believe the virgin birth. He was teased mercilessly. People didn't believe he was who he said he was. You see that time and again in the Gospels, right the way to the cross. He went through the darkness. He lived in the darkness. And he went into the valley of the shadow of death so he could lead us out the other side. Jesus Christ said of himself, I am the good shepherd. And the good shepherd does what? He lays down his life for his sheep. Even if you're walking through the darkest valley right now, loved ones, you don't have to be afraid. He's with you. He knows you. He cares for you. He's not capricious. He's not mean. He's not doing you harm. Wherever he's taken you is for a good purpose, even when you can't see it. And he will lead you through and never leave your side every minute you're in the valley. The psalm ends, you prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil, my cup overflows. Surely your goodness and love will follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. The Lord is our shepherd throughout life. He's our guide throughout death. He's never going to leave us. And lastly, he's our host throughout eternity. And that hosting begins now, but it carries on forever. So, I don't know if it's going to be on the screen as well, but in Revelation, it looks forward to that day where we're with Jesus. It talks about us. The they is you and me. They're before the throne of God and will serve him day and night in his temple. And he who sits on the throne will shelter them with his presence. Never again will they hunger. Never again will they thirst. The sun will not beat down on them, nor any scorching heat. For who? The Lamb at the center of the throne will be their shepherd, always and forever. He will lead them to springs of living water, and God will wipe away every tear from their eye. That's our future. But he's the host here tonight. So on the night he was betrayed, Jesus took bread and he broke it. And when he'd given thanks, he said to his disciples, "Take and eat, this is my body." Then he took a cup, and when he had given thanks, he gave it to them, saying, "Drink from it, all of you. This is my blood of the covenant, which is poured out for many for the forgiveness of sins. I tell you, I will not drink of this fruit of the vine from now on until that day when I drink it new with you in my Father's kingdom." He's the host here tonight. He spreads the table. And he broke bread and said, "Do this in remembrance of me." And it's our joy as we conclude our Easter time to remember what Christ has done for us. He spread this table. He is the host. He's the host tonight. And he'll be the host throughout eternity. Brothers and sisters, eat and be thankful.